Once upon a time, there was an honest man named Heinz. He lived in a small cottage with a lovely garden that was famous across the land. Flowers of every kind bloomed there throughout the year, and the air was always filled with fragrance. Hans worked hard to keep his garden beautiful, and many people admired it. Hans had many acquaintances, but his closest friend was a wealthy miller. The miller never passed Hans's garden without taking flowers, herbs, or fruit. He often said, "True friends share everything," and Heinz, proud of his friend's noble words, always agreed. The neighbors wondered why the miller never gave Hans anything in return, but Hans never thought about it. He loved hearing the miller talk about the greatness of friendship. Hans's life was pleasant in spring, summer, and autumn when his garden gave him plenty to sell. But in winter, he had nothing and often went hungry and lonely. During those months, the miller never came to visit. "There's no point in visiting Hans while there's snow," the miller told his wife. "If he saw our warm fire and good food, he'd envy us, and envy ruins character. When spring comes, I'll visit him, and he'll give me a basket of roses. That will cheer him." His wife admired his words, and even their little boy, who wanted to share porridge with Hans, was scolded for foolishness. "Flower is flower and friendship is friendship," said the miller. When spring came, the miller returned to Hans, carrying a large basket. "Good morning, Hans. How was your winter?" he asked. Hans admitted it had been hard, but he was glad spring had come. "We spoke of you often," the miller said smoothly. A true friend never forgets. He admired the roses, and Hans explained he hoped to sell them so he could buy back the wheelbarrow he had sold to survive the winter. "You sold it? Foolish man," cried the miller. "But don't worry, I'll give you mine. It's old and broken, but you can have it." That's how selfless I am. Of course, I bought a new one for myself. "Now, since I'm giving you my wheelbarrow, could you spare some wood to fix my roof?" Hans gladly gave him the wood. "And since you'll soon have my wheelbarrow, surely you'll fill this basket with flowers," said the miller. Though Hans knew it meant losing his chance to sell them, he didn't want to seem selfish, so he agreed. The very next day, the miller asked Hans to carry a sack of flour to the market. Hans hesitated because his garden needed care, but when the miller reminded him of the wheelbarrow, he agreed. Exhausted that evening, Hans comforted himself that he had pleased his best friend. Soon after, the miller scolded Hans for being lazy when he overslept from exhaustion. He ordered him to fix his roof, then to herd sheep up the mountain the next day. Hans longed to work in his garden, but he obeyed every request. Each time he doubted, he remembered the wheelbarrow and the miller's fine words about friendship. One stormy night, the miller's son fell off a ladder. The miller rushed to Hans and said, "Go fetch the doctor for me. Since you're getting my wheelbarrow, it's only fair you do this." Hans agreed, though he asked for the miller's lantern. "No," said the miller, "it's brand new, and I don't want it ruined." So poor Hans set off alone in the dark storm. After hours, he reached the doctor, who hurried back on horseback. But Hans, trying to return on foot, lost his way in the heavy rain. He fell into a bog and drowned. His body was found the next morning by a goatherd. Everyone came to his funeral, for Hans was loved by all. The miller wept the loudest, declaring, "I was his best friend, so it is only right I walk at the front." He sighed sadly, "It is such a loss. I was just about to give him my wheelbarrow. Now I don't know what to do with it."